August isn't slowing down, and neither are the new releases. Another batch of new mobile games have landed, and a few actually worth at least a download. Hello friends, this is Mobo. Today we're going to be checking out 20 more new mobile games of August for Android and iOS. This kind of took forever, but finally, Infinity Blade, the Apple Store exclusive game, which was actually taken down almost 5 years ago, is finally back and is available now on Android for free. In fact, after all these years, this thing is still ridiculously good. Like, this was one of those mobile games that genuinely felt impossible back in the day. The graphics, the atmosphere, especially that sword combat where you're actually watching your enemy and reacting to every swing. Kind of like Dead Space Mobile, which was released on the Apple Store and taken down for whatever reason. And yeah, Infinity Blade is now free. It is completely offline. Basically a great way to start your day. You've got the dark fantasy castle, tons of gears to collect, the crazy bloodline system where dying isn't really the end. You just come back stronger. All you've got to do now, since it's not an official port, you've just got to Google search the name, just pick up the first link you see and download and enjoy. Now, with that being said, Suikoden is now finally available on Android and iOS. And as of today, we're halfway happy to report that, first of all, it is not a lazy port spin-off wearing the same name. Starleap is in fact a brand new enemy in the series that, for those of you who missed it, actually brings back the old classic Suikoden feeling of building a huge cast around you, watching the story slowly getting dragged into something much bigger than where you started, and it's actually free. In fact, with most players calling the game already a 10 out of 10. Check it out. Starleap launched in Japan, so technically it's already live, but the global rollout, however, is still sort of separate. This is probably one of the weirdest love stories that you will see ever. So Pigeon, a love story here, just literally drops you into a life-sized city as a pigeon, and your entire mission is to just fly around looking for that one bird you've been apparently destined to be with. That's it. No enemies, no XP grind, no giant objective marker screaming at you, just thousands of pigeons, beautiful cities, and that endlessly just cooing at strangers hoping one of them is the one. This new version in fact has been rebuilt with cities like London, New York, Tokyo, and even co-op added. Pretty bizarre game, genuinely funny, and really, really wholesome. It's available now on Android and iOS for the price of $3. If you think idle RPG games have officially run out of weird ideas, well, here's a cat trying to rescue his butler. In fact, Cat Butler just dropped on Android, not globally however, that's gonna happen by the end of the week. It sort of takes the familiar idle RPG formula and gives it a pretty surprisingly fun twist. So you're basically building this cat mage, blasting through enemies with magic, unlocking new abilities, slowly becoming ridiculously overpowered while the game just does half the work for you. Pretty simple game, it's an idle RPG, it's just cute, looks like the kind of game you open for a few minutes but end up sticking for hours. Dynasty Warriors Overlords is finally on mobile for free, Android and iOS, and I don't know if you've ever dreamed of mowing down hundreds of enemies at once, this is exactly why the series became legendary in the first place. It's officially licensed by Koei Tecmo, brings back the old classic Three Kingdoms era, and absolutely actually nails that over-the-top Musou feeling of sending entire armies into oblivion in one hit. It's been adapted for mobile, but the core experience is still there, and for Dynasty Warriors fans, finally having this in your pocket is a pretty big deal, including myself.
Что это за остров?
So at number 6, in fact, this might be the most ridiculous horror game on the list, where you wake up after a shipwreck on some random island, there's no rescue, and somewhere in this little island or jungle, there's this absolutely unhinged dude named ChungaChanga who's apparently decided that you're now his new problem. It's a survival horror game. You know, you're gonna be searching for items, solving puzzles, setting traps to avoid them, building really funny ways off the island, and somehow you can even become friends with the guy instead if you want. It's got multiple endings, this game. It's got weird little secrets everywhere. The game constantly jumps between creepy and just completely stupid. It's a pretty good game, plays offline.
Balls are all around us and behave in unexpected ways.
Number 7, we've got Ball Pit. Most of you know the game. It's just one of the best survival games of the year so far, especially if you're into pixel art. It's a rogue, in fact, meets Brick Breaker, bullet hell that's layered with base building and loot hunting, which has resulted to something really intense, really smart, and pretty much a survival in general. The reason this game is in the list today here is the developers just came up with a major update, adding a bunch of new content, characters, gameplay adjustments, and more daily stuff. It's a free trial version, but the full game's $9.99, including the update. You know, running a motel already sounds like a terrible job for most people, and this game somehow makes it even worse. So you start off doing just normal stuff like checking guests and cleaning rooms, handling requests, trying to hit your daily targets. Then the night shift starts and things get weird. You know, guests begin acting strangely, things around the motel don't quite add up, and what looked like a simple management game now then slowly turns into some psychological horror. You know the formula. It's a free game, it's offline, pretty cool mix of sim and horror, specifically, well, you know, if you like games that slowly just mess around with your mind. This is basically what happens when someone gives you a garage full of weapons and just no at-all supervision. So Smash, Build, Pray, Smash, the game here, it lets you build a battle machine from just basically hundreds of different parts however you want. You just slap on some wheels, whatever you like the position, blades, guns, whatever you can get your hands on, and then throw the thing into one-on-one online fights. In fact, the best part about this game is that your design actually matters. Like, you build something too heavy and that's a problem, something too light and one good hit can send you over flying. It's a surprisingly tactical game, very addictive as well. Number 10, we've got Idol Farm Life, Juice Tycoon, which is basically what happens when a K-pop idol decides they've just had enough of the spotlight and opens a juice farm instead. For whatever reason, where you start with this tiny little patch of land, grow your own fruit, turn it into juice, slowly build the whole thing into a little farming empire. You know, you can upgrade the building, unlock bikes, machines, horses, tractors, even customize your character if you want. It's just a pretty colorful, ridiculously chill game. Has a sort of Doom-like loop to it as well. It's a free game, it's online, and already downloaded nearly 500,000 times. I don't actually get it. So if you've actually been following the Dungeon Odyssey comic or manhwa, well, you know, the manga, this one's basically your excuse to jump back into that world on mobile. It's an idle RPG at heart, so there's like plenty of automatic progression and grinding, but there's also a surprisingly big amount of content to mess around with. But yeah, you know, the biggest reason to check it out actually is the comic connection. So if you're already a fan, this one's almost like a no-brainer. If you're into those creepy analog horror videos, I would argue this game's basically turning that whole idea in a way indie. You know, you're stuck inside this, look, what looks like an abandoned asylum, watching security cameras while strange animatronics start appearing where they definitely shouldn't be. The trick here in the game is, of course, keeping an eye on every angle, managing your camera battery, and using a flashlight before those things get too close. It's pretty simple, but that's also kind of what makes it, you know, work. The less you know about what's happening around, the creepier it sort of gets. It's a free game available now on Android only. Kings Do Not Fall is another one of those games that sort of came out straight out of the Super Nintendo era in like the best way actually possible. It's an old school side-scrolling beat-em-up. We've got great combos, boss fights, modern elements to keep things fresh as well. Between stages, you can spend your gold on a better gear, weapon maybe, giving the combat a little more depth. In fact, the coolest part is that it's made by one of the developers behind The Legend of Iron Commando. So it does really feel like a love letter to brawlers as well. It's a free game, about 600 megabytes in total. Alright, so I wasn't expecting a potato to have like this much going on in his life, but Mini Heroes War of Potatoes is this new idle RPG game where these little mini potato warriors get into war, pick different classes, gears, artifacts, and of course progress through each level as you go. So yeah, the combat runs automatically. Of course, it's an idle game, but there's actually plenty to mess around with when it comes to builds and stuff. You can jump into dungeons, guild wars, PvP, trading, and a bunch of other multiplayer stuff. It's a free game, pretty goofy. It's an idle RPG. It's available on Android and iOS. Why not? look, if you've ever wanted to call in an airstrike without actually having to do the flying yourself, well, this one's a pretty damn simple choice to pick. So the story isn't jet support Air Force the game here. Your job is basically to just lock onto targets and unload everything you've got. Military bases, oil refineries, vehicles, and anything else basically standing in the way using machine guns, missiles, whatever you want. And there is enough going on to make each run feel a little fresh than the last one. It's a pretty light game, completely offline, and leans pretty heavy on the sim side actually. Number 16, we've got this game called Scape. I would argue it's one of those survival horror games that gets straight to the point, where you're inside this research facility with no weapons, something's haunting you, you've got basically no choice but to hide and just figure out what's going on as you go. You gotta be searching for keys, solving puzzles, sneaking around, bit by bit uncovering what happened, been through notes, recordings, and figure out the story as you go. The atmosphere is pretty good, the whole thing has a classic Outlast kind of feeling, and being able to play it completely offline makes it even better. It's a free game, but 250 megabytes in total. Imagine getting paid to clean this abandoned house and accidentally discovering you're standing inside a murder scene. That's basically where Corpse Theater, the game, starts. And things, of course, obviously only get worse from there. You're locked inside, something's haunting you. The only way out is fixing an old car, but then you figure out there's much more. It's only around 250 megabytes in total, completely offline. If you like short horror games with an actual escape objective, this one's actually pretty damn creepy. Now, on another hand, if you're looking for a World War II shooting game that doesn't take itself seriously at all, well, World War II 1939 is a pretty interesting little sandbox, rather. You just pick a side, get into the battlefield, just fight over different holes using everything you've got. Rifles, machine guns, to even tanks and aircrafts. You can jump into a Sherman, take control of a fighter, or just basically help your team push the enemy with a jet. Definitely a rough around the edge type of experience right now, but it works pretty well. There's one downside maybe, which is it plays online. And yeah, we are officially raising pigeons here. So the game Pigeon Loft Simulator basically lets you build a loft, take care of pigeons, breed them, sell them, send the whole flock flying around the sky for a little bit of pigeon play, Every pigeon is a sort of a different rarity, you can hunt for breeds, the market, hatch some eggs yourself, manage food and health. Slowly you kind of build up a proper collection of pigeons. The game's completely offline, and it has a pretty weird, relaxing, let me check on my stock one more time kind of addiction. I don't know. It's not a free game, but it plays offline, takes you $1. And finally, last but not least, we've got Ether Survivors, which if you played enough survivor games, this one has a pretty cool way of sort of switching things up, where instead of just controlling one character or unit, you're running this 3-person squad at the same time with each character bringing their own skills and stuff. When all 3 heroes sync up, then you can unleash some real deep fusion type of attack that, sort of clears out huge chunks of the screen as you go. It's only around 250 megabytes, it's offline, pretty damn fine twist on the survival formula, and it's a free game as well. Thanks for watching, I really hope you enjoyed, I'll see you again tomorrow.